listening to Speaking with One Voice with Rodney Payne. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, topics you'd like discussed on the show, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. That's rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. You can also search for us on Acast, Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Just look for Speaking with One Voice. Now, here's your host, Rodney Payne.
Hello and welcome to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. Listen, I first want to tell you Happy New Year. Secondly, I want to say welcome back. And thirdly, I want to say thank you for being present for the relaunch of our podcast, where we have over 190 episodes already there for you to grow from and to learn with. But I want you to know that we are not only back, but we are new and improved. We are now, not only are we on all of our regular platforms, iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple. We're on all of our regular streaming platforms, but now we are launching on our YouTube channel, So if you'd like to see a video version of this particular podcast, just subscribe to our YouTube channel at Rodney R. Payne. As a matter of fact, you can catch all of our social media there at Rodney R. Payne, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, X. We are right there for you, and we are excited to bring you the podcast that will continue to add value to you and your leadership team. We want to make sure that you always have a resource to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. And I am your host, the coach, Rodney R. Payne. Listen, let's hop into today's topic, and just know that you can find this podcast every week. We'll drop a new episode, and so you can get your copy right here where you're viewing this content right now. Today, I want to talk about the art of relatable leadership, bridging the gap. The art of relatable leadership, bridging the gap. So in this day and age, we have 5 different generations, perhaps in the workplace at one time, or that are in our client base at one time. We're trying to reach everyone. And because we come from so many various demographics, backgrounds, born in different times, you have your millennials, and now you have your Zers, and there's a whole lot of difference there. So what happens is many times there can be a gap between how we relate one with another, not necessarily because it's intentional, but there's just a way that I have history of doing business, or a way I grew up, or in my day, as we like to say, versus how you grew up in your day, or how you did things. So there is a gap there. And I want to give you some steps today to help to kind of bridge that gap, so that as a leader, you become more relatable. I know that sometimes we can get to where relationships can be overly sensitized and things of that nature. But when we really think about it, we want to know that we matter to the people that we work with. We want to know that they value us as an individual, that they value our skill set, what we bring to the table, that they value us as a team member. So we've got to learn how to be relatable in leadership and bridge the gap. And I believe there's an art to that. I want to keep it as simple as I can, but let's start with this. And as a matter of fact, by saying as simple as I can, that's really tongue in cheek. We're going to come out of the gate strong today, and we're going to learn how to get there. So the first thing you want to do to bridge the gap, to be relatable in leadership, is you have to build authentic relationships, or build authentic connections. You have to make sure that you are building something that's authentic and tangible as we look to connect with those that we lead, with fellow team members, etc. We've got to be intentional in this act of building authentic connections. And what that means is, if we're going to build authentic connections, we've got to build authentic relationships. And in order to build an authentic relationship with someone else, you, my friend, have to be authentic. That's right. I know it seems intuitive, but let's think about it. Many of us in leadership are not necessarily authentic. To be authentic means that you're not false, that you're original, that you're genuine, that you're not a copycat, but that you're real. So if you're going to build authentic connections, you are going to have to be the real you. But that presents a problem for us. What problem does that present? Well, it presents a problem because most of us like to present a resume version of ourselves. What's a resume version of ourselves, you ask? Well, a resume version is where I tell you everything that's good about me and tell you why you want to work with me, but I keep secret those things that I'm not exactly proud of, that are not my best attributes. So I kind of put those on the back burner and don't even talk about them, and I show you the best version of myself. Well, while what you're sharing and from the best perspective could be true, it ceases to be authentic because there's more to you than the perfect version of you. So, in order to be relatable in leadership and to bridge this gap, we've got to learn how to not present who we want to be or who we desire to be, but rather we need to learn to be able to grow to a point where we can present our authentic self, our real, genuine self, and that be the person that we want to present. Oh, this is so exciting. So what I'm saying is, instead of saying, "Oh, I really want to be a leader you can trust," how about becoming a leader you can trust? And we'll talk more about that. So in order to really bridge this gap and begin the art of relatable leadership, we've got to learn the process of authenticity. And just as a caution here, if you're going to be authentic, that means that you're going to have to be vulnerable, my friend. You can't be authentic unless you're willing to expose your struggles. As a leader, we all have struggles. As a leader, not everything we do comes out just easy. We didn't wake up like this. No, ma'am, no, sir. We have to work at this thing. So we want to be sure that we're willing to be vulnerable, to expose the fact that it took us some time to get to where we are, to expose the fact that we've not yet arrived, that we are yet a work in progress, and we're on our way. So we have to be vulnerable. And listen, I know I've got some leaders, and you are a driver. You're strong. You want them to see no signs of weakness. You have to always show strength and resolve, so they'll follow you. I get it. So I will caution you, when I say be vulnerable, I want you to be careful not to overshare. Too many times we can get way down in the weeds and begin to talk about our problems. No, they're your team members. They are not your therapist. Now, listen, if you need a therapist, by all means, make sure you get one. You should have a coach or someone you talk to. But when it comes to your team, you want to make sure that you are vulnerable to the point of sharing your struggles, but not that you're oversharing. We're not suggesting that we won't aren't able to lead effectively if we struggle, but we can teach our lessons and we become more relatable when people understand that we have struggles as well. Again, not talking about getting into the details of your personal business, not talking about those types of things, but yet on your leadership journey, on your career journey, some of the challenges you've had along the way can become learning tools for your team members and those that you lead. So I just want you to be authentic. Not only be authentic, but then allow yourself the vulnerability to share that you have had some struggles along the way, but not to the point that you're oversharing, not to the point where you're telling them way too much stuff that has nothing to do. Listen, I understand there are things we need to work out. We don't work those out within our team, but we do want to be relatable, and that helps us to show some compassion. It helps us to serve our team in a much better way. So as we look at the art of relatable leadership and bridging the gap, the first thing is we got to build authentic connections, and then not only that, we want to move to a place where we master empathy. Oh, here we go. This is not a kumbaya setting. This is a leadership growth and development journey that we are looking to get better. So when we talk about empathy, we're really talking about how can we practically cultivate empathy that works in our workplace? How can we get in connection one with another so that we are not robots, remembering that we are people? How do we get someone to take ownership and be a part of the team and a part of the plan, a part of the progress, and a part of the solution? So we that's what we mean. So when I say empathy, Empathy simply means that, as we talked about in being authentic, we talked about this. It means that you can identify with the struggles that your team members are facing. So really, empathy is best described as simply saying it means that we care. As a leader, I have to care. John Maxwell has made this quote very famous. It simply says, "People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care." When we lack empathy, we can abuse people who have given their all for the team, but because of their present situation, tragedy, calamity, circumstances, we begin to be insensitive and we lack empathy. And as a result, we are not relatable as a leader and they don't connect with us, which is what our goal is. So when we think about this caring requires it requires compassion, right? It requires empathy. But if we want to get practical and implement this in our daily leadership, we want to understand that caring requires active listening. That's right. We have to learn how to listen actively. I say actively because if you have ears and you are audible and can hear, you hear things all the time, but it doesn't mean you're listening just because you hear. So active listening means that we are going to engage. Active listening means that we are going to really be present in the midst of our discussion, our conversation, our working together. So I can't care about you and be relatable to you if I'm not listening to you. Most of us are going to go through some trials and we're not just going to go tell people what we're going through. That is not human nature. We don't just tell people what we're going through. But if you actively listen, you'll be able to hear what's going on with your team member, and it may change or modify your communication with the goal of being present with those that you lead. If you know someone every morning, they have coffee, they come out, they're basically singing a song and saying good morning and high fiving everybody. When they come in and they're quiet, you've not seen them this morning, they're not verbal, they're not getting their coffee, that means something's going on. So when you speak to them, they're diligent, they do their job, they're responsive. But if you're really actively listening, you're not just listening to the words they say, you're listening to the words they present through nonverbal communication. You want to listen to exactly what they're saying. When someone is talking to you about a situation or a task perhaps that you've given them, active listening listens for what they're not actively saying. So sometimes you can give a team member an assignment, and when you give them the assignment, they're dutiful, so they're going to do the assignment. But what about when they do the assignment, but you can see the look on their face that gives you exactly what you asked for, but they have more to say, but they won't say it out of respect for you. But we want team members who engage. So if you take that scenario right there and just say, listen, it seems like you got something more you'd like to say. Please feel free to share. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Well, that's active listening. It's mastering empathy, because if I'm empathetic, that means I've had times when I had things I wanted to say to the boss, but I didn't get to say them because the boss didn't give me an opportunity. And that made me feel some kind of way, as if my contribution was unwanted, unnecessary, or perhaps not even respected. But when you have a leader who actively listens to you and who is present with you, what happens is you begin to get some skin in the game. You begin to be an owner in this business, and you're looking for the best possible way to get the job done. And now we have a bigger pool of ideas. Does empathy mean we listen to and act upon every idea? It certainly does not. But empathy says, I understand the struggles you have. I understand it can be difficult to communicate upstream. I understand that in many cultures you may have come from, that it may be difficult to communicate how you feel without fear of retribution. So now we have to understand that an active listener is simply telling somebody, I care about what you're saying. I'm fully present with you. And let me just give you one quick tip. Put your phone on do not disturb, turn it face down. Don't look at your watch or your phone or your computer or your tablet when you're talking to someone on your team. Give them your full attention. It's struggle enough to get the job done. Now I got to get it done when I know you're really not listening to me and you're going to come back to me. And depending upon how you're wired, coming back to you with information I've already given you simply frustrates me. And now that impacts my productivity. So I'm not saying we need to circle around and gather around and hug and kiss every day. I am saying that we need to actively listen and be present with our team members so that we can let them know that we identify with their struggles. Listen, you are listening to Speaking with One Voice, and now you're watching Speaking with One Voice with your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. I am so excited for what's happening in this particular part of our journey. Together, we've been growing on this journey for over 190 episodes. Today, we are talking about the art of relatable leadership, bridging the gap. I've got one more thing I want to share with you, and then we'll call it a wrap for the week. So the art of relatable leadership, bridging the gap. The ultimate goal to bridging the gap is we have to create a culture of trust. A culture of trust. That's right. So how do we create a culture of trust? Why is trust so important? Why is it necessary for us as leaders and fellow team members to have trust amongst the team? Well, it fosters an open environment where I know as a team member I am safe to contribute to the team. This is so significant. If you want relatable leadership, you have to create a culture that's safe. A culture that's safe is a culture where you can trust one another. What does trust mean? It means that we can rely on the integrity of those that we're working with. Their integrity, their strength, their ability, their commitment. I can count on you to show up and do exactly what you said you would do. But here's the thing. When you think about this trust thing, we're looking to create a culture, how we do things, our way of doing things. Sam Chan simply says that's what it is. Culture is how we do things here. And he often uses an example in one of his books of culture that I want to share with you. It talks about going to the perfect restaurant, and he separates the restaurant into two parts. There's the front of the house, which is the part that takes care of you, refills your wine, and takes your order and brings you your meal. There's the back of the house where they cook and prepare your food. Just naturally, they're very different cultures. The outside culture is that we have to accommodate our clientele and make them feel special and meet their needs and serve them with integrity and with joy and make their experience a wonderful dining experience. The back of the house, not so much. The back of the house is we have to get the best food out as quickly as we can and keep up with these tickets. We want the best food, and so they'll keep coming back. But our job is to make it look good, get it out there, and our servers serve it well. So what happens is the cultures often clash. Why? Because the front of the house is waiting on food that's taking too long from the back, or the back of the house has prepared food and it's taking too long for the front of the house to get it out. You see the culture challenge. But here's what happens in a great restaurant with great food, at great back of the house, great service, a great front of the house. If you have the perfectly prepared meal, your vegetables are just right. They're seasoned to perfection. Your steak is prepared exactly the way you want it. It's a nice medium with just the pink is just right in the middle of the steak. The grill lines are great. And it's a wonderful, wonderful meal. The server has been phenomenal. The chef has prepared the meal, but they made one mistake. They put the perfectly prepared steak and the seasoned vegetables just right on a dirty plate. They didn't mean to, they just didn't see it. So when it was delivered to the front of the house, they didn't see it. They put it in front of the dining clientele's in front of them and their experience. And now look, would you eat it? It's got baked something on the plate that's not a part of your meal. Would you eat it? No, it would taste right because it's prepared well. It's presentation aside from the dirty plate as well. The challenge is no matter how well we do it, if we put it on a dirty plate, we can't serve it. That's what culture is like. When we have the perfect solution, we do it better than anybody else. But our culture is a dirty plate. No one will receive our product. So what we have to do is create an environment where you can rely on the integrity of those with you. And trust is built two ways. And I want you to catch this. It's built over time and through consistency. It takes time to build trust, and it takes consistency, but you can lose it in one act, one bad experience. And so the art of relatable leadership, bridging the gap, means that we want to make sure that we are building trust over time by being consistent. The last thing I'll share on this is that trust requires all team members to be allowed to contribute ideas to our success. What that means, my friends, is that we value all team members. That's what your team wants to know. They want to know that you value them. So let's commit to working on the art of relatable leadership, bridging the gap. Bridging the gap. We want to make sure that we are doing what it takes to get there. We want to build authentic connections. You know that. We want to master empathy. And lastly, we want to create a culture of trust. Listen, I want to thank you for being here this week. I want your feedback. You can reach out to me directly at rpayne at onevoiceinc.org, rpayne at onevoiceinc.org. You can also message me, inbox me, rodneyrpayne.com, or all social media platforms at Rodney R. Payne. The goal for this week is I want you to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the video version, because I want to see you, see me as we continue to work to get better. We are committed. This is a new year. It's a new season, and it's not a new you, but it is an improved you. I'm so excited about the journey you've allowed me to join with you. Listen, I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. You've been listening to Speaking with One Voice, and we love to add value to you. It's a new year. It's a new season. It's an improved you. Let's keep growing together.
You've been listening to Speaking with One Voice. Please remember to follow Rodney Payne on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Rodney R. Payne. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback, so please feel free to leave us comments. And if you would, rate and subscribe to the podcast, we'd appreciate that as well. Don't forget to set up for notifications so you can get the latest updates and social media posts and get new podcasts when they're released. As always, use the hashtag Speaking with One Voice or simply SWO.